everyone, welcome back. So today's makeup look is this berry coloured eyeshadow with a matching lip. These colours are great for the festive season. I'm going to start off by neutralising my eyelids to get rid of any pinky tones and just make sure they're a nice canvas ready for the eyeshadow. I'm using my Bare Minerals BarePro foundation, which is a full coverage foundation, and I'm using a concealer brush to apply that around the eye because it's more precise. The first palette I'm going to be using is by Sigma. This is their Warm Neutrals palette, and the shade I'm using first is called Sugar Milk. It's a matte finish and it's described as a milky vanilla shade. The brush I'm using is my MAC 286 Duo Fibre Brush. Going back to the Sigma palette, I'm now taking Cinnamon, which is another matte shade, and although we're going for berry tones and this clearly isn't a berry shade, it's going to work as our transition for when we put the berry shade over the top. So I'm using my same MAC 286 Duo Fibre Brush to apply this, and I'm working it straight into the socket, and I'm using a Duo Fibre Brush because it's really fluffy and it picks up less pigment. Next I'm taking this Burnt Terracotta eyeshadow from the Aeris palette by Natasha Denona. And on my base shadow brush from Real Techniques, I'm working that directly over the cinnamon shade that we've applied into the socket. The reason it's important to layer different colours is because a lot of the time, the colour of the eyeshadow in the pan doesn't always translate as the same colour once it's applied to the skin. A lot of berry shades tend to have purple undertones, and that colour is going to be great for the mobile lid, but we want it to transition into something quite warm, so that's why I'm applying these shades into the eye socket. It's also given me a chance to play with some of the palettes I've not used yet. So this is the Joya Palette by Natasha Denona, and I'm taking this shade called Fuchsia. And using that same brush, we're going to start working this colour into the socket of the eye as well. So this is starting to give us more of a raspberry tone, which is really lovely, and then we're going to start going into darker berry tones on the actual lid itself. I've just noticed I've got one strand of hair dangling down by my eye, which is so frustrating now I'm watching it back, but in the next clip it does disappear. I think I'm going to create a couple of looks using just the Natasha Denona holiday palettes. They are limited edition, but they're so beautiful. So if you like the look of them, definitely get them before the holiday season is over, because once they're gone, they'll be gone. So as you can see, I've been working my brush backwards and forwards with a really light hand, blending that raspberry shade into that cinnamon shade. From that same palette, I'm using the colour Red Grape. Obviously grapes are berries, so that's perfect for this. The colour definitely qualifies. So this colour is going to transition down from the socket onto the eyelid, and we are going to be applying a darker colour over this. The shade I'll be using is a burgundy shade, which is quite dark, and on the skin it looks a little bit lifeless. Adding this warmth underneath it is going to give it a bit more life and also make it look that little bit more berry toned. I'm going back in with my Duo Fibre Brush through the socket to make sure everything is nice and seamless. Going back to my Sigma palette, the colour I'm taking is called Russet, and this is a sheen finish, and as I said, it's classed as a deep burgundy. I'm using the same Real Techniques brush to apply this, and I'm patting that onto the eyelid itself and feathering that up towards the socket line. Now you can see what I mean when I say feathering. I'm using a very light hand and tiny little tapping motions just to push that colour up ever so slightly. That's going to make the blending so much easier. So I'm going in with a smaller socket brush here, which is clean, so I'm just using it with light strokes to blend those two shades together in the socket. And as you can see, with little to no effort, we've achieved a nice gradient. Next I'm taking this Super Shock shadow by Colourpop, and this is in the shade Envy, and I'm going to be using my ring finger to tap that onto the eyelid. This is going directly over the burgundy shade that we've applied. This eyeshadow has a violet coloured sparkle shot all the way through it, so it's going to help to make our berry shade look sparkly. Once you've applied it, you want to go back in with your small crease brush and just make sure that the edges are nice and seamless. Going in with a pencil brush and the Burnt Terracotta shade, I'm applying that underneath the lower lashes. Now we applied this to the socket line, and as you can see, this colour no longer looks that shade because we've layered the colours. So it's hard to even remember that we had this sort of tone on the eyes. Now all you can see are berry shades. So if you don't always have the exact colour that you want, this shows that layering different eyeshadows allows you to create new colours. I'm using EYEKO's Sport Waterproof Eyeliner to tightline and run that along the waterline. You don't have to use black, you could definitely use something that's a berry shade or purple, it's completely up to you. Underneath those lower lashes I've applied some Envy eyeshadow, which we've got on the top lid, and using my pencil brush I'm now just connecting the outer corner with the top lid and smoking it out slightly. And then I'll just go back in with my fluffy blending brush to make sure it's all nice and seamless. This week I received some chunky glitters from Kiss My Fairy. They do some gorgeous colours and they are great for like festival seasons or holidays where you want to be sparkly and stand out. They're cosmetic glitter, so they're safe around the eyes and also all over the body and even in the hair. I'm actually not going to be so bold today. I'm just going to be using the small particles of glitter that are in the lid, and I'm going to use that to line across my top lash line. So I've painted on a thin line using glitter gel. Then I'm picking up the glitter on my brush and pressing that onto the glitter gel, and this is going to help it to adhere to the skin and stay put all day. So the glitter colour I'm using is called From a Rose, and this has got shimmery and rose gold tones in it. It's got a mix of different shades, but its overall tone works really well with the colours we've got on the eyes. If you want to see more of the glitters, because I honestly can't tell you how beautiful they are, go follow them on Instagram. It's Kiss My Fairy IBZ for Ibiza. I'm now going to line really close to the top lash line so that it hides the seam of the lashes that we're going to be wearing. This one is by ZOEVA, and I believe it's their calligraphic liquid liner. I'm going all the way from the very inner corner to the outer edge, but I'm not winging it out. And then I'm going to go in with some Roller Lash Mascara by Benefit. I'm applying one coat to my top lashes because we're applying falsies, and 2 coats to my bottom lashes. The lashes I'm going to be using are Tatti lashes, or Tati if you're American. These are the 2 pairs I received, but I'm going to be using this fuller set. I believe these ones are TL3. I'm cleaning up under the eyes using makeup remover and creating a nice sharp wing on the outer edge. Then going back to my Aeris palette, I'm taking the shade Nude and I'm applying that to the inner corners of the eyes. This is beautifully reflective and very eye-catching. Now I'm taking Benefit's Foolproof brow powder. These come in a range of different shades and each one has 2 colours in it to create that nice ombre brow. The lightest shade goes in the front half of your eyebrow and the darker shade goes on the outer half of your eyebrow. The product is lovely, I just prefer to use my own brush rather than the applicator that comes with it. Then I'm going to set my brows in place using my favourite brow gel, which I use every single day, and it's the Benefit Ready Set Brow, and this is a clear brow gel. It makes my eyebrows quite crispy, which I really like because I have a tendency to touch them. So when I feel the crispiness, I take my hands off straight away. For foundation, I'm using Bare Minerals BarePro foundation, and this is super full coverage. It has a naturally matte finish and there are 30 shades to choose from, which is brilliant. Next I'm going in with my Natasha Denona Sculpt and Glow palette, and I'm using the cream contour shade. I'm working that into the hollows of the cheeks using my ZOEVA 117 Petite Defined Buffer brush, and then I'm using my beauty blender to press that into the skin. If you find you get a muddy appearance when you apply your contour shade, try using a beauty blender and this technique by pressing it directly into the skin. Sometimes when you use a brush you start smearing it everywhere, and that's when everything becomes quite muddy. I'm using what's left on the bristles to run that down the sides of the nose. And now I'm going in with the powder contour around the hairline and also setting the hollows of the cheeks. I'm taking this kind of brick shade blusher from the Opulence Blusher palette by ZOEVA. I'm dusting that onto the back half of the cheek and then using a clean brush to knock the colour back again, that way it'll all be a bit more subtle. Next I'm dipping into my Becca Après Ski Glow Collection face palette, and I'm using the shade Rose Quartz onto the top of the cheekbone and a little bit above the eyebrow bone. And then lastly for lips, I'm using Charlotte Tilbury's Matte Revolution in Glastonbury. This is a muted purple berry lipstick, which goes perfect with those various berry tones that we've got going on the eyes. Now, as I've been really ill, there's not much posing going on. I didn't feel too great when filming this, so I do apologise, but I hope you get a feel for the look and you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to get back to you. You can tap the photo of me whether you're on mobile or desktop to subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me outside of YouTube. My social handles are on screen now, as is my previous tutorial if you've missed it. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye!